How's it going, YouTube? We got Pat back here, and I am joined by two of our mod team. I have Doc here. You want to say hi?
Hello, everybody. Mr. Marshall, Doc, whatever you want to call me. I don't care.
And then we also have Ted. You want to say hi, Ted?
Hello, everybody. I'm obviously Ted.
Obviously.
Of course, right? And we're going to be looking at power rankings for our TGR singles league. Just a handful of things about our power rankings. Format-wise, I'm just going to go through the teams in order of draft order. So we'll start with pick 1, then we'll go to pick 2, and so on. And for anyone who is not part of the league who's watching this, we had 3 Terra captains. You had to have 3 Terra captains. They had to be one stab typing and one of some other type. And you had a total of 10 to 11 Pokemon. So that's the general gist of this. So you have a sense of what the teams in the format and rules are and whatnot.
And as always, beautiful graphics made by the one and only Brave. I'll leave his channel down there. You can go support him.
Yep. And yeah, we'll go and jump right into it. So first pick of the draft went to the New York Yanmegas, and this is Ted's team. So Mr. Marshadow, Doc, why don't you tell us what you think about this team?
Okay. Regieleki, I think it's gonna be just a super fun Pokemon. I don't know if it's probably gonna be very good, but at the very least, it's gonna be super fun to finally have actual coverage on it. I don't know if I would have went Terra Ice. I would have gone Terra Grass maybe. Just because that's resists ground and as opposed to just neutral. Driftblim is an interesting Pokemon. Yeah, Ellie, bye. Is an interesting Pokemon. I'm not sure about the Terra Fairy. But I could definitely see it putting in some work, especially with Unburdened, just getting like a super fast team on the field. Stantler. How much was Stantler? Is it 1 point?
I don't remember. It was pretty cheap though.
Yeah. I could see it just being a cheap Terra Captain. It can definitely do some damage. It can hold a Violite now with Weird Ear. So it can do some stuff. Weird Ear is the evolution for Stantler, right?
Yep. Okay,
good. I will always mess up Stantler and the the leaf one. What's its name?
Oh, Sawsbuck?
Yeah, Sawsbuck. I'll always mess them up.
Yep.
Corviknight is always a great Pokemon in singles. There's not really much more to say about that. You can defog, you can bulk up, you can do all sorts of stuff. It's a great Pokemon. You can't go wrong with Corviknight. Quavel, going once again more into that speed roll Aqua Step, going to be very strong. I do like it on this team. Rillaboom gives you some priority, although I don't think... No, it doesn't get Grassy Glide. Grassy Glide's not in the game,
it doesn't have
right?
Grassy Glide anymore.
Yeah.
Or at least not at the moment.
Bummer, but also happy I don't have to face Grassy Glide anymore. Okay. So, I don't know about Rillaboom. I guess you could do it for like Awakening Earthquake, but I don't really think it's really necessary on this team. Typhlosion is by Ted, I guess. Did Ted
Yeah, let's just keep rolling.
Okay. Typhlosion is a nice, interesting slower mon. It can definitely do a lot of damage. Spidops, I think, is one of the few web users, right?
Yep.
Cool, yeah, so it's probably just there for webs. If it can do some damage, it can do some damage. Dragalge, I love using Dragalge, although it's a bit slow for my taste. Adaptability is a really fun ability. This would have been a pretty cool Terra Captain, honestly. Just Terra Poison adaptability would have been so fun. And then Knacklestack, that's his name, right? Knacklestack is a good all-around rock setter. You can do some damage with Salt Cure or whatever its move is. Overall, I like this team. A couple mod, I do like it. It's a very fast team, which is how I like to play too. So, yeah, good job, Ted. There are a couple mods I'm questioning, but there's nothing that I'm saying. Like, what the hell is this doing here? So, overall, I say that's a good team.
Yeah, I think so too. It's nice to have the combo of Driftwood plus Rillaboom, so you have some terrain to help unburden, which is pretty good. So like the team is very, very fast, and it's definitely got some good defensive options too as switch-ins. I think between like Corviknight, Dragalge, Knuckle Stack, like those three mods can be pretty good defensively. And then you just have a ton of like offensive firepower and some okay hazards, you know. Like I think Knuckle Stack might be the only rock setter. I don't think there's any spikes, but we get T-spikes and webs, so like having the grounded poison type is always a good idea. So
yeah, I think that's the only hazard. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I don't think Stantler has hazards. I know none of the other stuff in the top two rows have hazards at all, so yeah. But like I said, I think it's a pretty good team. They have good removal too, which is so hard to come by in this this format.
Rapid spin on the Lucky, defog.
Yeah, on the core. Yeah, and there's just not very many hazard options in terms of removal. This generation, they got rid of it on so many different things. So yeah. Overall, the team seems pretty good. All right, next up we have my team, and I'll just talk a little bit about the team, and Doc, you can add some things afterwards. So probably the biggest thing that stands out here is the Basque Legion, having last respects and just being a very, very bulky offensive mon is really nice, and having Pelipper to support it I think is going to be pretty fun to use this season. The Terra Captains I'm kind of excited for. I think Hisui and Decidueye seems really, really interesting. And a shout out to Miss Mag for recommending the Terra Steel. I think that's going to be pretty cool. Just gives it some other options defensively and offensively. So I think it's going to be pretty fun. This is probably worthwhile to point out that Cyclizar does not have Shed Tail. That's not something that we allowed for this season. But it does have a nice little combo of a Regenerator Core with Cyclizar and Cloth, which I think will be pretty fun to use. And yeah, just some like generally bulky Pokemon, stuff that can hit fairly hard, a little bit of Wish Passing with Darkspun, and a little bit of setup between probably Frostmoth, maybe Cloth with the... Oh, I don't think Cloth has Shell Smath. It might just be the ability. Whatever it's called. Anger Shell, maybe? Something like that.
No. Don't ask me how to know Pokemon. I know nothing unless they're called it.
But yeah, a little bit of setup options between a handful of Pokemon here, which would be pretty fun to use. So, yep. What do you think about the team?
I'm gonna be honest. I have literally never used or seen somebody use Hisui and Decidueye, so I have no idea what it does.
Yeah, I think it's fairly similar to the regular Decidueye.
Regular Decidueye?
Yeah.
Okay. It's fighting grass?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do love using Magnezone. I think its abilities are really fun, and Analytic is always a fun ability to use. Magnet Pull, I don't think you'll get too much use out of, especially without Hidden Power. You could have maybe gone for like Terra, Fire to trap in Steel types and obliterate them, but I don't know, I'm sure I don't think you'll be using Magnet Pull too often. What's its last ability?
Sturdy, I think.
Sturdy? Oh yeah, Sturdy. Yeah. Always good ability. So you're never gonna complain about living a hit.
Yes.
I don't know. It feels like it should have Levitate.
That would be really nice. You would just never use the other abilities because like Steel and Electric have like that 4x ground weakness.
Also, it definitely levitates. If you've ever seen it in game, it definitely looks like it should be able to levitate. I don't know. I do love Frostmoth as a nice like low tier bug sweeper. Can you explain why Terra Electric specifically? Was it just like the type you chose?
Yeah, so I chose Electric just because Ice and Electric coverage hits pretty much everything for neutral or super effective damage.
Ice
so Bolt Beam,
Electric.
Yeah, Bolt Beam coverage is pretty good. Just because like Electric is resisted by like grass and grass. Yeah, ground grass, and that's where Bug or Ice can hit both those. So.
Best.
Oh, we think we lost him. Anyway, all right, so I'll go ahead and keep going here. So I think the team overall, I'm kind of excited to use. I don't know how well it's really gonna work because I'm just not a huge like weather player. Like I'm not particularly good at playing weather, so this will be fun to try it out and get a sense for how it feels. And like I don't know, Male Basculegion was a Pokemon that we originally had banned, and then our coaches voted it back in. So I figure why not. Okay, let's go take a look at our next team here. So this is the West Texas Arcanines, and it looks like a pretty fun team. I think it's got a lot of speed options between Talonflame and Teleon, Garchomp, like all those mons, and Weavile. All those mons are pretty quick. Some really nice hazard setting between Garchomp and Fortress. Both those mons are able to set rocks or spikes, which look pretty good for the team. Looks like Toxicroak is the poison type, which I'm not actually sure if that poison type has toxic spikes, so they might not have that option. But a lot of resistances to ground, which is really nice. Although they aren't really weak to ground either. So, but I'm just looking at like Electros, Talonflame, Decidueye, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so actually the mons that you typically have weak to ground, this team doesn't really have that. So it's very unlikely that ground is going to be an offensive type that they have to work with, or deal with, I guess. But the Terra Captains are really cool. Like I think Inteleon is a really cool Terra Captain. That mon is just like, I think it's really interesting. I saw it used really well last gen by, I wish I could remember the coach's name, but I thought they looked pretty good. And then Toxicroak and Espeon as Terra Captains look pretty cool here. The Terra Fire is really cool on Espeon. I think that's I guess it's against steel types. That seems to be the main idea there, is that like Psychic isn't able to hit steel types, so Fire can do that job. So I like it. I think that'll be pretty cool. But yeah, I like the team overall. I think it's got a lot of cool options going on here, and should be very interesting to see how they do this season. And next up, we've got the Flanders Flygons. Now this team I thought was really, really cool because they have so many good hazard setters. Like Ceaseless Edge from the Hisuian Samurott can just set up spikes all day long. And then they have Sandy Shocks that can also set up some hazards. Stonejourner set up some hazards. Like nice Rapid Spin from Serena. So like their hazard game looks really cool. Their Terra Captains I also think look really interesting. The Dunsparce is just like that mon is so good. It's so exciting because it does so many different things really well. Its move pool is massive. It's got Serene Grace and Rattled, so being able to dodge some of those intimidates or get the speed boost on like special sets, which is pretty sweet. But yeah, just a very bulky mon, very good. Like I think that's a really good option here. So yeah, I think that's going to be a pretty good option for them. And then the Blaze Tauros, I think, is a really nice Terra Captain as well. Being able to get the grass typing, I thought was a pretty good idea. Just because then you aren't weak to ground anymore. And it kind of helps with like switching around, I think, a bit too. It gives you some good offensive coverage there as well. And Glaceon. Yeah, I think Glaceon's a really nice Terra Captain as well. The dragon typing for Terra is really interesting. I think I kind of like water, just because like there's nothing that really hits water aside from electric grass, and you already have grass types covered. But dragon is a ton of really good defensive typing, so I think that makes some sense too. And it doesn't really share weaknesses with the ice typing. So actually, you know, I've talked myself into dragon typing. I think it's pretty good. I'm a fan now. But yeah, I think overall the team looks pretty good. Like a lot of different options. You get a ton of mind games with Hisui and Zoroark as well. So I think the team looks pretty cool overall. And our next team here is the Coastal Kilowattrels. Doc, you want to talk about this team?
Yes, let's see. Just looking through. You do have the nice little sand core with Anton and Lycanrons. That's the first thing I noticed. This one does get Sandwich, right?
Yep.
Cool. Volcanion is in this game?
Yes.
Of all the legendaries to bring, Volcanion is in this game.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice that they had a Scald user here, so some really nice options from that standpoint. They do have double Sand Rush options between Houndstone and Lycanroc, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, Houndstone gets it. Also, how did Houndstone make it to at least the second round?
That's not... So I think they had to change Terra Captains. This is not draft order at all.
Okay. Greeton is an interesting Terra Captain. I wouldn't have thought of it initially. And I like it as a good mod. It's a good budget pick, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best Terra Captain. I think Tyranitar could have been a nice Terra Captain. Maybe like a Terra Fire or a Terra Dragon, maybe. I think Lycanroc could have been a decent Terra Captain. Scizor would have been a great Terra Captain. Detonation Bullet Punch as Terra Steel would be wonderful. So I mean, I like it overall. It does seem to fit pretty well into this team. Maybe not as a Terra Captain. Thunderous is nice. Should offer some support, and of course, having the flying type will be very useful with the Sand Core. We have five Pokemon that are weak to ground, so having the flying type will be nice. It might have been worth having another flying type or Terra Flying, something to, to counter earthquakes. But other than that, I do like this team quite a bit.
Yeah, ground looks really good against this team, which is very typical of fighting against sand teams. Yeah, ground is usually really good against them. They so I will say you mentioned a handful of Terra Captains, and I agree that Tyranitar or Scizor would have looked really good as a Terra Captain. I think they wanted Houndstone as a Terra Captain, which makes some sense, right? That one is very good. But if they went Houndstone, then they couldn't have had any of those other options you mentioned as Terra Captains, because we had 10 points for Terra Captains, and Terra Captain point values were half of what their normal point value was. So once you got a high tier, you had to get
as simple as Terra Lycanroc, which Terra Rock just for some extra damage, or Terra Fighting.
Yeah, so you couldn't necessarily go with multiple high tier Terra Captains.
How much does Lycanroc cost?
I don't remember, but you couldn't have had Houndstone and Lycanroc.
Okay.
Yeah, because you had to have three Terra Captains, so.
So it's just there because you need to have something.
Yeah, you have to have three Terra Captains, which was part of the idea, so.
So having Greedent as a Terra Cap is just a budget thing, not...
Well, I think it's also pretty good, too, right? If you, as a normal type, then you get Ghost typing, and you can be immune to fighting, which is pretty nice. I mean, there's some nice fighting immunities on the team. I guess Houndstone, even if you go with for a fluffy Houndstone build instead of Sand Rush, that would be a pretty solid switch in for just any physical attack coming through. Yeah, I think Greedent is a pretty cool Terra Captain. I don't think Arcturus is going to do very much for the team. It's I don't know. It's probably stats are a little bit too low. I could see it being
a nice offensive tool against ground types.
Yeah, and they might need that. They might really need to have that option because just in general they don't have very much that hits ground. It's really just Volcanion, right? And then the Arcturus is the other option. So
yeah. I don't know its base stats, but it's a middle stage pseudo. I would imagine it has a pretty decent attack stat.
That's probably true. Yeah, it's probably all right. I don't remember what it is either, but all right, let's go and head over to this next team, the Machey Park Slowpokes, and I'll go and chat about this team for a little bit. They have some really cool options here. It kind of looks like they want to be a Sun team with Hisuian Lilligant and Charizard, and they do have the option of setting Sun with Prankster Sunny Day for Grafaiai, but having Torkoal I think would have been really nice for this team, because then you just get some really nice... Well, then it's easy to set up Sun, right? And then you also get some hazard removal, the Sun on switch-in, which is really cool. But I like their Terra Captains. I think Hisuian Arcanine is going to be really cool. And I like the Terra Grass option. I think that makes a lot of sense for it. Just having that 4x ground weakness and turning it into resistance is a really good idea. And the rest of the team looks pretty solid as well. It looks like Ooh, maybe. Okay, I was about to say this team might be very physically offensive oriented, and then it's kind of offset by like Tornadus and Tatsugiri, which could be special offense, and I guess Charizard as well. But yeah, the rest of the team looks like it's very physically offensive oriented, so this team might struggle a little bit with like maybe like an Iron Defense body press kind of mon, even though they're not necessarily really weak to that, but maybe Iron Defense body press plus some coverage move could do some work against them. What do you think about the team?
It is definitely physically dominant, but I don't know. I don't think that will be too much of a problem. I think this team has enough tools to get through it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Zangoose has Super Fang.
Maybe. I don't know. I know it has Belly Drum, so like you can definitely break through some defenses that way too.
Yeah. I'm sure some Luxray has Roar. You could definitely do that. I'm sure something on this team has Haze.
I don't think anything has Haze. Not that I see. But you do have some ways to kind of get around that. But I think in general the team has some pretty cool options here. There's a ton of setup on this team. Oh my gosh, so much setup. Like you got Nasty Plot on a couple of different mons. You got I think there's Belly Drum on a couple of things, if I remember right. I think Zard, I'm pretty sure Charizard still has Belly Drum, and then Zangoose does. Iron Defense, so. Victory Dance, Swords Dance, all sorts of different things. So team looks really cool. I'm excited to see what Upgrader's able to do with it.
Also, Sui and Arcanine has Rockhead Head Smash, right?
Yeah, it has a very strong attack stat. Plus that crazy move does a lot of damage.
Yeah, I've used Tyrantrum before. I know how it works.
Yep. Yeah, so it should be pretty interesting. But having like Head Smash plus Flare Blitz, like this Pokemon's going to do a lot of damage. So pretty interested to see what he does with it as well. All right, let's go and take a look at our next team here. We have the Middle Village Pidevs. And what do you think about this team, Doc?
Belly Bowl!
I know, right? I love that Pokemon. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's exactly my thoughts.
Yeah, the rest of the team looks like it's pretty good too. I like there's kind of those 4 mons on the left side there, the Iron Moth, Iron Leaves, Hydreigon, and Amarys. Those seem to be kind of the big carries for the team. But they're definitely very offensive, I guess. And so Blissey is going to be really nice, I think, to support this team. Having Wish to help out those mons that like they're bulky enough to switch in, but they don't have recovery on their own. So being able to come in, take a hit, deal a ton of damage, and then get into Blissey to Wish back into those, I think is going to be pretty cool.
Hydreigon has Roost.
Dragon does not have Roost anymore.
Why? It's a bird. Why can't it land?
I don't know. But yeah, it does not have that anymore, which is a little unfortunate. But there is some recovery on both Dunsparce and...
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Anyway, Bellybolt and Dunsparce being Terra Captains with recovery is going to be kind of nice. So those could eventually come in and be like defensive mons along with
but it's fine. The land-dwelling snake still has Roost.
Yes. And then Coromandel, I think, is going to be a really nice option as a Terra Captain here. I'm not really sure what Impidimp or Lumineon are going to do. Like, I don't really see that much in the way of, like, water weaknesses where Storm Drain is going to matter as much.
Impidimp doing some stuff, or is just pranks, so just being annoying, setting up screens, thunder waving, and just being a nuisance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could, like, do some support.
If you can figure out what the hell Lumineon does, you're ahead of me.
Yeah, well, I think, like, it could do some Storm Drain kind of things, but... Like I said, I mentioned a moment ago, is that like water isn't really that amazing against the team per se. It's like it's kind of there for.
You have the Iron Moth, and then Terragon Abominable, and that's it.
Yeah. So there's not really not much that's weak to water. Plus, you really like have a ton of ways of dealing with water types between Bellybolt and Iron Leaves. So yeah, I don't know. Team looks fairly solid overall. There's just a handful of mons that I don't know if they're going to be able to be as impactful during the season as like maybe some other options
like
could be.
It kind of has like two different cores. It kind of has like the hyper offense core with the High Dragon and the Paradox bombs, and then it has the super bulky mode with the Blissey and the Dunsparce. That's regular Dunsparce?
Yeah, that's regular Dunsparce.
And the Belly Bolt. So it does kind of feel like it has like two cores, so I don't know how well they're going to mesh together, but we'll see how Olram manages to do that.
Yeah, well, actually, that's definitely not a bad thing, because if you have, and it's always good to have a mix of those kind of things when you're doing Draft League, because like you never know when you're gonna want to be able to out-bulk someone versus where you're gonna be able to want to out-offensive somebody. So it's kind of nice to have those two options. And then prepping against that kind of team can be a little difficult because you got to worry about these very hyper-offensive bonds, and then you also need to be able to have enough offensive firepower of your own to be able to break through their defensive walls. So yeah, cool team. Anyway, next one we have is the LA Lucarios, and I'll go and chat about this team. It's got some pretty cool Terra options. I think the I don't know, it's a little weird for me to see Carbink with Terra Rock as its option. I feel like Terra Fairy would have made more sense in my opinion, but having water as a Terra option is kind of nice. So that gives you like a really good defensive option, or something that can switch in and potentially switch in a couple of different times, set up hazards and that kind of stuff.
I think they went with Terra Rock. If you're using Carbon, you're most likely going with like an Iron Defense, Body Press defensive set, right? So Rock just has, I feel like, a better type chart than Fairy does.
Oh, I 100% disagree with that. Like the Fairy typing has so many more resistances, immunities, and things, and then
sorry, Rock should have it better.
Yeah. Anyway, but
in that case, I'm surprised that they went with Terra Water and not Terra Steel.
Well, you still have the ground weakness if you go with that, but going with Terra Water is just a very good defensive type, and so like going with that that game plan of having like a very defensive mon, I think makes some sense to be Terra Water.
That makes sense. I would have maybe picked, I don't know. It's a tough choice.
Mm-hmm. But the rest of the team I think is okay too. Like I'm not a huge fan of some of the mons that they have. Like Murkrow is another one, kind of similar to the Impidimp, where like very good doubles mon, right? But not really going to do much in singles. And then I'm actually really interested to see how the Dugtrio, the Alolan Dugtrio does, but the team has so many ground weaknesses already that I'm a little concerned that adding another one isn't that great of an idea, especially when some of your top mons are also weak to ground, between the Galarian Slowking, the Glamorna, and the Ceruledge. But if people are being ground types, then you do have like Chestnut, which is very, very good defensive mon, and Azumarill is able to hit stuff pretty hard. So, and you have Braviary too, so like in Noivern, so there's a handful of immunities and resist to it and reasons not to bring ground type attacks and just spam them.
We're pretty much in agreement on this team. Can I just use this time to complain about the fact that a Alolan Dugtrio exists? It's like, what does it do? It's in Hawaii, therefore it grew hair? How does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like, wouldn't you want to have less hair if you're in Hawaii where it's super, super hot?
I guess maybe they should have kept the regular Dugtrio as Alolan with no hair, and then the regular Dugtrio should have had hair.
Yeah. Well,
can you imagine going back to like Kanto?
Yeah, because I don't know how Japan is, but I would assume it's significantly colder than Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go and take a look at our next team here. So we have the Respiratory City Rejects. And tell you, Doc, what do you think about this team?
It's a good question. I guess I'll start on with the Terra Captains. Cleavor, super good offensive mon from what I remember of having never looked at its stats in this pool. I think it gets Stealth Rocks, right?
Yeah, it has Stealth Rocks, plus it has the ability to set Stealth Rocks with the Stone Axe attack.
Okay. Yeah, it's a soup. I'm not sure about Terra Bug. I might have gone Terra Rock, unless you want like Terra Bug U-turn. Terra Fighting I do like. Lets you do Axe Kick, lets you do close combat if it gets close combat.
I believe so. I think that Scyther line got close combat this gen.
Yeah, so definitely something we could do. Avalog, still get Rapid Spin?
Yep.
Get Spikes?
Not sure about Spikes. I know it has Stealth Rock, but not sure about Spikes.
Yeah. Super cool, super defensive. I assume it still gets Iron Defense Body Press.
Yeah, it should. I don't think the move pool difference between Hisuian and regular Avalogs are that different. I think they're pretty close to the same.
Yeah, so I do like this. It's a nice defensive mod with Body Press. Always gotta love that. Hisuian Typhlosion, I assume kind of does the same thing as regular Typhlosion, just sits there and clicks Eruption.
Yeah, I would assume so as well. It is kind of nice that it has Frisk as its ability, which I think is pretty neat.
Frisk. Interesting, yeah. Is there an item clause in this league? I don't remember. There you go, yeah. Okay. Lando is always super good. Intimidate's great. Its move pool's great. Earthquake. You can U-turn, knockoff.
No knockoff anymore.
Super what?
Isn't any knockoff anymore.
They got rid of all the fun moves.
Yeah, there's a lot less moves in this gen than previous gens. I think part of the reason behind changing up the move pool so much is that Terra as an option covers for a lot of those things. So they got rid of a knockoff on a ton of different mons for that reason, I think. And like, there's a ton of other options.
I don't know if I agree with that decision, but I guess don't make the decisions. Still a super fun, super versatile Pokemon, and we'll definitely put in some work. I do like Bronzong here. It's a nice defensive Pokemon you can switch into. Heatproof should be super nice. Two of your Terra Pokemon are weak to fire. So I do think we'll see quite a bit of Heatproof from this team. Same thing with Toxapex. Being able to resist fire I think will be super nice. Same thing being able to resist fighting on Toxapex. I think it's going to be super great. I do like this team quite a lot.
I think the Bronzong Toxapex defensive core is pretty solid here. Like you have a mon that resists, is weak to ground, resists fighting, and then you have Bronzong that can have that ground immunity. So I think the two of them are kind of a nice combo for defensive options. But the rest of the team does look pretty cool. I'm excited to see what Arts is able to do with this team. I'm not a huge fan of the Arboliva plus Landorus, just because I think that if you're going to bring those, like maybe you want to bring Special Landorus.
Go Harvest.
Yeah, you could go Harvest, and that's kind of the other side of that too, is you could go Harvest, and then you don't have to worry about setting Grassy Terrain. But Grassy Terrain with this team is kind of nice, because there's quite a few ground weaknesses. But, I don't know, it's either one I think could work.
Or you could just not use Earthquake. It has enough moves where it doesn't necessarily need it.
Yeah, but it doesn't really have much in the way of its flying coverage is only fly. So if you aren't using Earthquake, then you're not using any stab moves, which isn't that great. I mean, you could go Special Landorus, like that's not a terrible idea, but then you don't get to use the 145 attack stat, and like that's one of the huge selling points for Landorus T in my opinion.
Or could just bring in more supportive on with like Defog, South Rocks.
I actually don't think it has Defog anymore either. Yeah, a ton of mons lost Defog as well.
Why?
So it's wild out here. Anyway, apparently you have not played very much of Gen 9 because there's been a lot of mons that lost a lot of moves.
Yeah, I haven't.
Anyway, all right, let's go and talk about our next team here. So this is the paths leading south. And I'll go and chat about this team.
The VTuber scene.
Anyway, I'll talk about this next team here. So this is a this team I think is pretty solid here. I like the Zapdos as a Terra Captain. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if ground is the best option. Like I kind of would have liked to see something different, but I'm also not really sure what I would want it to be. Just because if you're gonna be Terra Ground, then you're still weak to ice. And that's kind of my my beef with that one.
Steel.
Yeah, I guess like Steel would have been actually kind of interesting, just because Zapdos is a really good pivot, right? And so having that Steel typing would have been pretty
Yeah, and
interesting
that
to
makes
have
it
that.
not weak to rocks anymore, so it also has that too.
Yeah, like not weak to rock, not weak to ice. Yeah, actually I kind of like steel. I think steel would have been a pretty cool secondary typing for this. But the rest of the Tower Captains I think are great. Like Oricorio I think is good. Having Mariani as a defensive option. Not very likely to be used as the Tower Captain. I think Oricorio or Zapdos are more likely to be used, but it's still good to have that defensive option, just in case there's something that you really can't check very well. But the rest of the team looks really cool. I'm excited to see what Mousehold is able to do. I think that does quite a bit of work for this team. But there's also a ton of like physical offensive threats from this. Like you look at Ursaluna and Primate, like you got to be able to handle those Pokemon. But then in addition to Mousehold, definitely helps as well to put in a lot of work here. The Tinkatuff I think could have been something different, but I'm not quite sure what you could have grabbed for that point value. Yeah, the rest of the team is pretty cool.
Terrasteel Zapdos.
Yeah, Terrasteel Zapdos would have been kind of cool. And you have fairy typing potentially from Oricorio if that ends up being your...
You could... I don't know. I can't think of any low tier fairies right now. Also, I feel like people underestimate how much damage Cryogonal does. It's really strong.
Yeah, it's very cool mon. I think it's really nice that it has Rapid Spin to support this team, like we mentioned earlier, and has come up a couple of times now. A lot of Pokemon lost Devog, a lot of Pokemon lost Rapid Spin, so nice to see Incog finding a way to get hazard removal on the team. And then Mew, I think, is a really interesting option
I also like
too.
Hisui and Gudra. It should be a nice like mixed attacker, keep people on their toes. It's nice, it's bulky, which this team does kind of lack a little outside of the Cryogonal and Marini. So I do like that, and can definitely do a lot of damage. I think it still has the same 110 special attack stat that regular Gudra has, right?
I don't remember what the stats look like on it. I know it's got a lot less speed, and I think it might have...
Oh yeah, it has a big metal tail.
Right, so it has a lot less speed, but I think the physical defense stat I think is better than normal Gudra. So it's actually better defensively than Gudra is.
Metal tail.
Yeah. Yeah, cool team. Oh, I guess it also does have removal from Tidy Up on Mousehold too. I forgot about that, like Dragon Dance and
I would assume
removal.
Zapdos still has Defog, right?
That one I'm not actually sure about. It may or may not. It's like I said, it's wild out here.
Anymore? Can it not flap its wings anymore?
I mean, yeah, we'll see. Anyway, next team that we have here is the Atlanta Talon Flames. And why don't you talk about this team?
Are you using Pokemon I don't know anything about? It's extremely inconvenient. Don't do it.
Okay, well, I'll go and chat about the team
this
then.
one, I don't know what half these mons do.
Yeah, so I think Spotlight as a Terra Captain is pretty sweet. Having the option, I mean, having a Mon that can just clean up in the late game, or sometimes even clean up mid game, is really nice. So I think that Mon is very good as a...
you don't prep right, it can just clean up on lead.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, like, if this is your Terra Captain, people are going to prep against it. So it's, yeah. But being able to limit its Terra options a little bit between Psychic and Fighting just means that you have a little bit more, there's more play against it, which I like. But Flareon, ooh, Flareon as a Terra Captain is so good. Being able to go Terra Normal and then get that boosted Facade damage after you get your Flame Orb to proc Guts, whew, that sounds real nice. So I think that this team is going to be pretty sweet. Sneasler I think is great. Glastrier I think is great. I'm really excited to see how Enamorous T does. So I'm really hoping, I don't know if Talon Master J is going to be uploading videos for the league, but I'm really hoping he does, because I would want to see how that Mon in particular does. Just because it's a little bit slower than the regular Enamorous, but still has a ton of different damage options. But yeah, I think the team is pretty cool. They have a lot of different hazard setting options. They have some really good mixed offensive. They have a lot of good physical attack, a lot of good special attack. So really hard to just prep for one side of the damage options here. And hazards are solid too, like Gastrodon and Skuntank.
Skuntank lost Defog.
Probably. I don't remember. But it does have Toxic Spikes, which is nice. And then Gastrodon got Spikes this gen, so you got Roxanne Spikes Setter from that side of things. So yeah, overall, I think the team is pretty cool. Interested to see what it's able to do this season.
Can you just make it Electrode explode? I just don't want to see Electrode.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how much this... I think this is the Hisuian Voltorb, so it's not going to be very much.
He's like the wooden texture.
Yeah. Okay. Next team we have is Shawarma Duke, and why don't you go and talk about this team, Doc?
Okay. Rotom Frost. Interesting. What's walking range typing? Is it Water Dragon?
Yep, Water Dragon.
Okay. I do really like what's it called? Heracross, and having a more reliable Grass Stabs and Megahorn should be nice with just Terra Blast on that, or you could go for Loaded Dice Spin Missile. And of course fighting, always great. Although I'm not sure if this could misunderstood because both of the dual types have both types of the Terra, or they just want to do that.
Mm-hmm. I think for Rotom Frost it makes some sense to have the both typings for that, because having 100% accurate ice moves off of Terra Ice is kind of cool. But I think for Heracross I would have liked to have seen either bug or fighting. I'm not sure which one would be better here. Maybe Terra bug,
just because that gives you Terra bug, so you don't have to rely on Megahorn. And I would like to see like maybe Rock.
Yeah, I think Rock has kind of become pretty standard for Heracross, but I also like normal. Kind of the same reason for Flareon that we mentioned earlier. Being able to go Terra normal Facade after you get that Guts boost is pretty cool.
Yeah. And does it get a multi-hit normal move?
Probably not. No, I don't think so.
Okay. Leafeon, I do like it. It's a slower Pokemon, but it does do a lot of damage. And if you Terra Grass it, Leaf Blade can do even more. I'm not sure about the Terra Psychic. I think it could have been a better type to pick. I'm not sure.
It's very interesting because a lot of times Terra typing, you tend to try to go for something that covers what your normal typing is, but this one is like a complete different set of things to worry about, which I think is kind of interesting. I'm excited to see what the Leafeon can do. I will say that I wish this team had some sun on it. Like, you kind of set Sunny Day with Cinderace, but that's not really the role that Cinderace tends to fill. So it would have been kind of nice to get
it. Is that Tornadus Therian?
For which one?
Does that Thundurus get it?
Actually, I think the Thundurus forms did get Sunny Day now. But same kind of thing, right? Like, both those mons typically are your offensive threats, and so packing Sunny Day on those, I guess maybe if you end up with an extra move slot, but I think Torkoal would have been really nice here, because then it also would have helped out the Leafeon. So it would have been kind of neat to have that as an option.
Let's put him on the spot. Ted, what do you think of this team?
This team? Oh, it's my opponent's team. Okay, so I don't want to reveal anything about my strategy versus him. I do know that he's a rookie, so I'll be a little bit lenient on him. I guess
show no mercy.
Yeah, I really like the main threats. Cinderace, really good Pokemon in singles. Great versatile support as well. Like, you get Court Change. You get good pivoting with U-turn. Good priority with Pecker Punch if you want to go with that. Walk and Wake really strong. They don't have a Sunsetter. I think I heard Pat Mac mention that would be nice on this team to utilize the Walking Wake a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think Booster Energy is nice. Boosting the special attack or speed, because Walking Wake is still pretty fast, but having the Booster Energy speed boost is nice as well. And then I believe that's the incarnate form of Thundurus, or not Therian form of
yep.
Therian form, yeah. Really hard special attacker. Doesn't have the Terra captain for it, unfortunately. I think it's a good user of Terra types. Because...
Honestly, I do like the three that they have, so I don't necessarily think it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, but if obviously not going to take into account that is not going to be Terra captain, but still hits really strong. Gets wild. I forgot its new signature move. I think it's like Wind Wild Bolts, something like that.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I forget. It has like less accuracy, more power than Thunderbolt, and like maybe more.
110 power, 80% accuracy. I think.
Right.
Is it like Bleak Stormwind?
Let me see here.
I don't know. It doesn't matter that much. It's got a cool new move. It's a little bit harder, a little less accurate. I think it has more of a parry chance than regular Thunderbolt, but less than Discharge. If I remember, it's 20% parry chance.
I think.
Also, I think we're all forgetting the true MVP, Diglett.
Right. Oh yeah. Here's the move. It's Bolt Storm. There we go. And yeah, 20% chance to paralyze. Yeah. So, pretty good move. You exchange more power for less accuracy, but overall, I think those three are the main bulk of this team.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I like those three on this team specifically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should be interesting to see what he's able to do with the team. I think we mentioned a potential change on Terra types for Heracross. I think that's something worth considering. And then I'm not a huge fan of like the bottom 4 on this row, so I think it might be worthwhile to consider some transactions to switch that up a little bit too. Just like slacking doesn't do a whole lot. Like there are very clear-cut ways around it by taking advantage of Truant. Whiscash I think could work, but Voltorb I don't think is going to be doing very much this season. I just like, if I look at that team, I'm not prepping for Voltorb at all. Like I'm going to figure out some other way to deal with the team and not worry about the thing. So anyway, on to our next team here. We have the Toronto Tinkatinks. And I'll go and start talking about this team. The that Terra Captain, you look at the first one there, Baxcalibur is, yeah, it's wild. that Pokemon is so hard to deal with. Having Dragon and Electric typing, just getting that Bolt Beam coverage on the physical side is going to be really strong. And then I think the rest of the team rounds it up kind of nicely. I remember during the draft, Bread was talking about hazard removal being a little scary for his team, so he ended up picking up Carcool later on. And then, of course, he has Magic Bounce from Hatterene to stop those hazards from going up at all. But that can be a little scary depending on what you're up against. Yeah, Goldengo plus Baxcalibur looks like a pretty strong combo. And then he has a couple other offensive threats to pair along with that. Pyroar is pretty nice. Galarian Zapdos is nice. Rotom's pretty good. I think Sneasel is something I would consider changing up for this team. Sneasel lost like a regular dark move to use. I think its best dark move is like Foul Play now. And so on an offensive mon, having Foul Play like that is a little rough.
It has Night Slash.
It does not have Night Slash.
Yeah,
so
it lost it.
Yeah, so it's having...
Why?
I feel like this is just the YouTube video where Doc complains about all the moves that get lost for Pokemon.
Hisuian Sneasel has Night Slash, but the regular form doesn't, which is very sad.
Weavile gets Night
It's
Slash,
definitely very sad.
Weavile has it. If you use Weavile, it has Night Slash. Why doesn't Sneasel?
Yeah, really unfortunate. But I think like, so Sneasel is Sneasel a little rough that way.
Game Freak. If you want to make a move change, that I'm not going to complain about. Just get rid of Recover on Toxapex.
Anyway, so yes, so Sneasel is something that I would probably consider switching out here. Like the dark typing doesn't really do very much for you, I don't think. And then like you already have Baxcalibur, what do you need another ice type for? So I think I'd probably switch out that mon. Maybe they wanted it for speed? Maybe? I guess it is one of their faster mons.
You need the speed here. I don't think you need it. Gyarados is pretty fast. Pyroar, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like 105 or 106 for Pyroar.
Yeah, Pyroar is pretty fast. Gyarados is pretty fast. Carcoal is a car. You would assume it's pretty fast, but it's probably like in the 60s or 70s, right?
It's pretty low.
Yeah. Despite having the word car in the name. But I don't think you necessarily need the Weavile for Sneasel for speed. There's probably better dark types down there in the low tiers. Maybe like an Umbreon or something.
I don't think so. I think Sneasel is definitely less than that. But yeah, the I would probably look at switching out Sneasel for something. I don't know exactly what I would want to switch it out for. I'd have to look at the tier list, but it not having like reliable dark moves is a little rough. But the rest of the team, I think, looks pretty good. I'm excited to see what Brett's going to be able to do with this team. Some good offensive threats, some good defensive options here too. Should be pretty good. And next up, we have the Tentacruel Pirates. And Ted, why don't you tell us what you think about this team?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of DGS's team actually. I really like the Terra Captain from DDNC. I've seen it pop off in Natdex leagues with the Terra included. So I'm excited to see that. Urshifu and Heatran are really common combo together. More so in VGC, but I like it in singles as well. Heatran covers the weaknesses of the Urshifu, mainly being Fairy, and also in a way Urshifu covers the weaknesses for Heatran. I really like the support from Donphan, good rapid spin user, great bulk, can patch up the special defense with an Assault Vest. Overall good attacker there. The 3 low tiers, I'm not really a big fan. Shelgon doesn't really do much.
You don't like
other
the
than
Chonk?
like Chonk is the exception, okay, but Shelgon, I don't think Shelgon is not going to do a whole lot here. I don't really like it as a low tier dragon type. Misdreavus, obviously, it provides levitate. I think a good ground immunity is great. But other than that, I don't see a whole lot coming from it, especially from a special attacking Pokemon. But overall, I really like the team composition. I'm mainly a big fan of Diancie, Urshifu, and the Heatran.
I agree. I think that's going to be pretty solid. I think I'm excited to see what the Hisuian Braviary can do. I think that mon's going to be pretty cool. And they do have like a very nice like fire water grass combo, because that is the water strike or water Urshifu.
How does this team deal with Edgequake coverage? It has 2 quad weaknesses to Earthquake. How does it deal with Edgequake?
Probably just Donphan, just being naturally bulky, plus Zarude is naturally bulky as well. I think those 2 mons are probably going to be the main way of dealing with that. That would probably be what I'd be looking at on the team against Edgequake. And like Edgequake, like the mons that tend to have it also tend to be weak to water Urshifu. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be too scared of it. Edgequake in general, just like Bolt Beam, tend to be good combos of coverage, but I don't think this team doesn't have counterplay to it. I think that it can do okay. Yeah. Okay, and I believe... oh no, we have 2 more teams left. So this is the Australian Ampharos, and I'll go and chat through this team. There was a bit of a meme running through the draft that this team was just picking up Pokemon that were weak to Fairy, and he's got a lot of them. Like, he's got 4 mons that are weak to Fairy, if you count the Terra from Staraptor, but just a ton of fighting types between Annihilate, Great Tusk, Terra Fighting, Staraptor, and then you got Regidrago, which is also going to be weak to that Fairy typing. So the resist for Fairy is going to be Salazzle, which is not great as a resist just because it's not particularly bulky. Naturally, at least. I guess you could technically invest a lot and kind of keep it bulky that way.
You could definitely run Assault Vest on that.
Yeah, you could. You definitely could. But then you also have to worry about rocks being up and having to deal with that. But yeah, I think that the Terra Captains, I think, are really interesting. That's the Basculin White Stripe, and being Basculin White Stripe being able to have that last respects as an option, and then being able to Terra into Ghost, I think is pretty cool. And then Quiver Dance Lilligant, I think, is pretty cool as well. So I like their 3 Terra Captains. I think those are pretty interesting. Yeah, so excited to see what this team can do. But I think they're double fighting types. I'm not a huge fan of. I think, like, obviously they're really strong Pokemon, but maybe there's one of them that you'd want to switch out for something and find like a really solid resist or something along those lines. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what the team's able to do.
Yeah, I guess like one thing to say about the Basculin, like compared to like Basket Legion, I guess both male and female, I think it's going to be a little bit harder to sweep with the Basculin just because it's got a little bit less power than the male form. yes, you get the EV Light boost for defenses, but it's not that great. I've used it before. It's not really that reliable, especially from the defensive front. And you're going to need a lot of setup as well, which I guess this team covers pretty well for the Basculin.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's go and take a look at our last team here. I believe we're on last team? Yeah, this is the last team. And this is the Crushing Savalis. And Ted, why don't you go and talk about this team? What do you think about it?
Yeah, some cite me of the Oinkologne. Like, I'm going to go with that first. Like, I really wanted the Oinkologne in the final rounds, but he took it. He took it as soon as I thought about picking it. So
oh,
that was
really?
the one unfortunate thing. Yeah, as soon as I thought about it, he took it. So it's all right. This team is very, very bulky. Volcarona surprisingly is very bulky on the Fizz Def side. Having Flame Body and access to Will-O-Wisp, burning those physical attackers that are very troubling for the lower tier picks. And having Wo-Chien to reduce attackers as well is nice. Wo-Chien has a lot of stalling potential. He has knockoff, you got Power Whip, you got Leech Seed, you can do sub stuff. So a lot of good stalling potential there if they want to go with that, but again, not reliable this generation as much as previously. The Iron Treads has rapid spin, so you can get rid of those hazards. Can also hit really hard with the booster energy, giving it an attack boost or a speed boost, getting those like Earthquakes and Iron Heads. Alola Mola. Very hard Pokemon to say. Lost Toxic, which is unfortunate. I really like Toxic on this Pokemon, but it still has Wish, so you can Wish Pesh if you really want to. Well, you can't Wish Baton Pass, but you can Wish Switch out, bring in something else.
You can Wish Baton Pass.
Oh, you can? Okay. Well, yeah, they can do that. So that's something that's really good for it's the lower tier Pokemon like Crocodile, Phalanx, and the Alolan Raichu. And then Cresselia, really bulky, got nerfed this generation, lasting 10 BP in defense and special defense, but it's still very bulky. Can hit pretty hard on the special attacking side. Can also provide Trick Room if they want to go very slow as well. So that's something that they could consider as well. Overall, I really like the bulky aspect to the team, and I'm very excited to see what he does with it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with a lot of what you said. I think the only thing I would want to consider if I were coaching this team, just me personally, is I would want to consider Phalanx as a Terra captain, and I think it's around the same points as Altaria, so that could be a straight swap. But having the no retreat option as a sweeper could be kind of cool. So that's like, just for me, that's something I'd be considering for the team. But aside from that, I think the team's pretty well built. It's got some really good options. What do you think, Doc?
Yeah, I really like this team. It has a lot of bulk, and I don't think it's really going to struggle finding damage. Volcarona is wonderful. Altaria can definitely do some damage. I think it gets Dragon Dance, so that can definitely do some damage.
True.
Wigglytuff, if you give it a choice specs or even just a Wise Glasses, can definitely put in some work with Calm Mind. Crocodile, I don't need to explain. And Phalanx, we just talked about in our retreat. And it does kind of lack a little bit in natural recovery, but it does have a Wish Passer in Love Disc. And does Wo-Chien get Aromatherapy?
Don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but worth a try. Wigglytuff might.
Oh, have like Heal Bell or something? I don't believe so. I think the only Heal Bell users are like Blissey and Chansey.
I don't know. Well, I do like this team. It seems very well rounded, and I'm excited to see how it's used.
So that's the end of our teams, and I don't think I mentioned this at the beginning, but I have a top 3 that I think in terms of teams that we have here, and I'll go and share what those 3 are and get Ted and Doc's reactions to that. And so these are not necessarily in order. I was just looking as before drafting and looking in that order. So my top 3 are Ted's team, the New York Yon Megas. and oh boy, let's see if I can get the right ones here. Yep, the Tentacruel Pirates was one of them, and the other one was the Toronto Tinkatinks. So those are the teams that I have as the top 3. What do you guys think about those? Any teams that you thought should be top 3, or do you agree with me in all of my glory?
Well, of course we agree with you. I mean, I do think Ted's team is definitely very good. I do think DJS's team is very good. Toronto Tinkatinks is good. I don't know if I would say top 3 necessarily. I think that last team we looked at is definitely in contention.
The Crushing Savales? Okay.
Yeah.
I could see that. What do you think, Ted?
Yeah, I wouldn't, because like I always think about everything about my teams. Like, I know my certain weaknesses and I know the strengths that I can play with it. But like the lack of fairy typing outside my Terra Captain with Driftlim, is the one thing that I don't really like about it. So yes, you guys can make a case about being a top 3, but in my eyes, I would say probably in the top 10.
Okay, so who do you take out? Who do you switch in to take your spot?
Let's see here.
Incog's team is also very good. Zapdos team.
Oh, let's see if I can.
I would say either Incog or Sum's team, swapping out to number 3.
Ooh, you guys both like the Crushing Savales.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, the team is super bulky, right? Like this team is really hard to break through, and it does have some good setup options in the team as well. So I can totally see it. And what was the other one you said? Was Incogs?
Yeah, I really like the Ursaluna game plan with it.
Does this have Trick Room? Because I feel like Trick Room with Ursaluna would be so broken.
I think Mew still retained it.
Okay.
I think it did. Right? Yeah, I still retained Trick Room, so
okay. Yeah.
They can go with that.
And it probably still has some pivot move of some kind, right? So you could go like Trick Room and then U-turn into Ursaluna, so you get in safely.
Yeah, it has U-turn and Volt Switch, so.
Okay, yeah, so it's got some options there. Very cool. Yeah, so you've seen a couple of different teams here. I think between the 3 of us, we've kind of looked at 5 teams that we think have those top 3 spots. But let's be real, like there are a ton of really good teams on here, and it was not easy at all for me to try to think about who I thought were top 3. Normally when I do these kind of things, I try to make a full list of top 16 and go from first to last. And yeah, I looked at this and tried to figure that out, and I got a complete headache because the teams feel like they are so closely aligned together, and any of these teams, like personal preference wise, I think could switch in that order, and it was really tough for me to figure that out, and I just said screw it, I'm doing top 3, and that was a little bit easier, but still not a simple thing to do, just because the teams I think are so evenly balanced, and it should be very interesting to see what our coaches are able to do this season.
Okay, I've got to agree with that. If you do want to take a stab at ordering the top 16, you can join the server. We'll have the doc with all the teams, of course, in the singles channels, and you can let us know in singles general what you think the top 3 or the top 6, or you can try and order them for the full power rankings if you want.
Yeah, good luck with that. Anyway, we're gonna go and sign off here. Thanks for joining us for the whole shebang, being able to see all these different teams, checking out power rankings and our thoughts on them. But yeah, we'll go and sign off now. You guys want to say bye?
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
All right, we'll catch you on the next video.